Welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this video, we're going to give you our review for Season 1 of Silo. All episodes now streaming on Apple TV+. If you guys want to check out our reviews episode by episode, you can look at the link down below. We just did episode 10 review. So, pretty good series so far. Glad that Apple TV is continuing to produce pretty good series. Let me get your thoughts in general of Silo.
Overall, it wasn't a bad show. I mean, I was kind of skeptical at Apple because of Hell Tomorrow and how they handled the retro futurism stuff, but here it's a different tone. And I thought the characters are great. I thought the actors did a phenomenal job of making these characters feel lived in, and the world, the set design was really beautiful. Like I said in earlier reviews, I think it feels really lived in, really imagined, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's the selling point for me. If it didn't look like it was like a functioning environment, then I probably would have like lost interest. But at the end of the day, it's the characters that sell this story, right? And I think they did a good job of making it feel like this world has been lived in for a long time, and there's a set of rules and guidelines that they have to follow. And there are certain characters that break out of those societal norms to discover the truth, which is a big theme in this series, is finding the truth, but also what does it mean to live in society and as humanity, right? What does that mean for us? Like, does it mean that we have to adhere to a strict order, right? Or can we break out of that order sometimes, for the sake of progress or innovate or evolution, right? Mm-hmm. So overall, I thought it was a pretty impressive show. One of my favorite shows this year. But Akram, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's probably a timeless tale just because of the big ideas it balances. And again, we talked a lot about like the subtexts in this series. And so for the most part, I like how there's just this mystery and this lore, but the overall idea is some things that seem oddly familiar to us, right? And it deals with just societies and different ways they govern those societies. And then it breaks it down to just being a human and humanity and the relationships you have with one another. And I think the way they went about that, it kind of digs deep, and I think that's why it makes it timeless. Even if it could take place, and then they make mention a lot of the past, and then we're not sure when it takes place. Like, does it take place how far in the future? So I don't think that really matters because it's really just the actual bigger idea. It's really grandiose, I think, in scale. And then plus, it helps that you have an awesome cast and you also have a beautiful set that, like you said, feels well lived in. And you have a very interesting mystery that keeps you wanting more. And that's how they ended it. And I really appreciate that. Hopefully this will become iconic in the future. It seems like it's getting good reviews. I can't wait to see what they have in store for later on.
Yeah, for sure. So getting into it, well, since we just covered the finale, I think we have a lot of burning questions, and I'm sure you guys will probably, want answered as well. So I want to get your thoughts on the ending, because I think that was the most significant takeaway from the finale was the ending. And what does that mean, for season 2? What does it mean for a lot of the characters, right? Will we see some returning characters, or will we be introduced to some new characters in the next season? Perhaps, maybe we'll even be introduced to a new silo, right, altogether. Maybe it'll be like a Citadel thing where like we see different parts of this world. So let me get your thoughts on the finale and what you thought about it.
Yeah, again, I really enjoyed the finale. I thought it was a really great finale. There are burning questions. I wonder if Juliette will in fact live. I'm not all too familiar with the novels. I just heard some stuff here and there, so I don't really know the expansive lore that it has. Maybe one that I could get into it, because it does keep you guessing, so you really want to get the answers right away. It's really cool how they did that. I kind of see Juliette as, I think everybody has different walks of life, and it's the silo presents an interesting sandbox that you can play with, and basically it represents a country or a world. And so I think it's really cool that you see these characters with different philosophies. We have Sims that wants to oil the well-run machine, right? That Bernard is actually head of, and you have Paul Billings. He just wants to honor justice in the best way he can, even if he doesn't have the privilege of being all too healthy now, but he still wants to do it. And Holston, he's just a family guy. He just wants to have a family. And then later on, he uncovers the truth. And he felt like that's super important because Allison felt that way too. And I love that he carved behind the badge truth. So it's like justice and truth and justice, So I think that's really symbolic. I think these characters are a lot more deeper than it's something interesting how they play with that. They're a lot more deeper. And that's why I say like the ideas that they balance here is a lot. You could see the show and you could say, okay, this is an interesting mystery. Wow. So it has that going for it. But also you got to look deeper and then you realize that this is actually quite like poetry. It's something about it. It's a mini scale ecosystem of our society, and it's a retelling. Like it's like as if it's recorded for us to see how we are. That's why I say it's timeless. It doesn't matter where you place it. You could place Silo in space or something like that. I think the same notion will still play out, very much the same. So I honestly must say a lot of episodes though weren't my favorite. I talked about this before that it felt a little too slow. Some people were saying that in the comments. Some people were saying that they find that fine. Me, I don't. I feel like other shows handle it better, like the show From. This show reminded me a lot of that show. Of course, they're dealing with different scenarios, but still. What really shocked me too was like how many characters get into trouble and maybe pass away or something, like Holston.
Yeah, I thought that was really ambitious for a show to kill off a lot of characters, especially early on in the series.
Right.
Because I really got invested into Holston in the beginning and Allison. And then we moved on. We had like a subplot with the mayor and the deputy. They had like a little relationship, and then they got killed off too. And then finally we're introduced to Juliette. It's almost like this kind of, I don't know, like Tarantino style, kind of like Reservoir Dogs, right? Like you get invested in certain characters and then they get killed off, and then you realize the shining characters pop out more, right? You're supposed to realize these characters are essential to the actual continuing story. So I like that they, took that risk and they said, look, we'll make these characters likable and then, make their deaths not in vain, right? Because they still are of significance to the cause of, Juliette trying to discover the truth, but that they were willing to take that risk and say, this is still a lived-in world, right? Like nobody's really safe in this environment, right? We're not afraid to kill off certain characters to make the point of this, bigger eye looking over the silo, right? Watching your every constant move, right? So I like that they took that risk. And yeah, I think Juliette as a character herself was really cool. I think Rebecca Ferguson did a great job of, making her, at first like this very reluctant character to like, and then we kind of like got invested with her as the story continued, and we learned more about her, why she was in mechanical, and she is actually like a very talented, individual. She's a lot, I think of like a, young Anakin, when he was like good with like machinery and stuff, and then she's kind of thrown into this situation where she doesn't want to be the sheriff, but it's like she has a good heart, right? She wants to honor her friend Holston, but also it's to uncover this truth. And like I said, truth is a big theme in this show. Do you think perhaps they did a good job of it with the finale, or do you think perhaps they kind of strayed away from that goal?
No, it's absolutely about that goal. They definitely showcase, but again, it comes at a cost. Truth comes at a cost. Everybody, they went out to clean. That for them, that's the truth. That's the final frontier. It's like going to space for the first time or visiting the moon, right? People just die in the beginning, and then eventually you get there and then you uncover things. But there's still a remaining lingering mystery, and people still in the silo don't know whatever happened to Juliette. It's a phenomenon what happened, that the fact that she kept on going and walking away. So I think forever that's going to be iconic, and that might raise some questions in the silo. So that does have repercussions, and I know that Bernard is completely aware of that. And so instead of taking the acting measures, Bernard went to torture Lucas as like a revenge, because that poor guy.
That should be season 2, just seeing Lucas's point of view in the mine.
They sent us to LeQuint Dickey Mining Company from Django. That was so like so messed
sad
up. Yeah, the poor guy. He took all his anger out on Lucas. I mean, it's a very. I think the ending. That's why I don't know if she's gonna really make it, because it's weird, because. Is it radioactive out there? How long can you live without food and water if it's not? And are the other silos inhabited by people? Maybe no. Maybe a lot of them had died out over time. It's like different civilizations she's visiting right there in a small scale. And that's why I said this place with like big ideas and kind of like a small scale setting, if you will. So I think she could introduce something. I consider Juliette as some sort of UFO, right? So if people see her on the camera, it's like this alien figure, like we never seen something like this before. But what does that do to the overall society? What does that do? What does that introduce? That introduces new ideas. Now the problem is people like Bernard, their job is to keep the society together. And what happens when something new is thrown into the mix? People start guessing, they want to go out, maybe they could live out there. Then the society kind of collapses and then the power goes away. So is she a good person for doing that? I don't know. I, for one, don't enjoy communism. But in this case, I'm like thinking, well, if these people are hiding the truth of the past. Why? Because anyway, they're telling the truth. Outside is desolate. So why exactly are you hiding this truth that how the past looked? It could be as a mercy. It could be to hide the fact of what happened to the world, and perhaps that could present its own problems. But I don't really think people like Martha or other people who live their day by day are going to rebel and riot for something that happened over 400 years ago. So it's really hard to say, and that's why I think that there's still a mystery at the front of it, and I hope the mystery is really great, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I think that's perfect. I think that's beautiful when shows do that. That's how you craft like a master tale.
Yeah, for sure. I still think perhaps it was kind of redundant that they were trying to hide the fact that, well, they weren't really that's the thing. It's like a back and forth. It's like they hide the fact that the world is desolate, right? And then when they go outside, they see this hologram, and it's like very lush, very green. It's like you're almost like in this fantasy world, and then but in actuality, it's actually like they told everybody it's actually very barren outside, and it's like, okay, so what was the point? Like, okay, so for me, it's like, okay, this could have been all avoided if they had just told everybody up front, like, this is how it is, and this is, we got to make a best of a bad situation, right? Because it's like you said, they're not gonna rebel. It's like, what else are they gonna do? They're gonna go outside and start civilization? No, because it's radioactive or some shit outside. So it's like they have to make the best of this silo situation, right? Perhaps, and that'll encourage them more, probably not to break these laws. I kind of understand like the whole Big Brother thing. I guess like when you kind of have to, like, even in our society, we have like, the CIA, FBI. We need like those kind of intelligence agencies to keep a track of things. But I feel like it got to a point where like they kind of started this whole mess in a way by like killing off certain people. It just inspired other characters to avenge their deaths and start this whole revolution. So in a way, I found it just kind of redundant.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm taking it the wrong way. Maybe I'm missing something. But we're judging the story off the show, not the novel. So we don't have really any knowledge in the novel. So from how I take it is that Juliette is right to avenge her love, to follow this mystery. But now that we as the audience see what's the real deal, it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just better to just leave them be. There's something about it where it's like, yeah, they're killing people left and right sometimes to hold the secret, and that's not right. But for the grander picture, I don't really know if it really matters to uncover the truth. Because the truth also, I think they're going to lead to a point where it's the battle that happened before, this big war. Maybe, and what's the deal with that? But again, it's like you have that information, but you're stuck. You're a can of sardines. So what are you gonna do? Like, are you guys gonna go outside and just sacrifice yourself because you don't want this truth? You're gonna have to live with it, right? There's nothing else you can do. Now, if outside is not anymore poisonous and whatever, right? And it's barren, but you guys could try to at least make a life and revisit the silo. Okay, that's a different story. But if it is barren, then I don't know, Juliette's probably toast, and the rest is history, because there's no point really to fight over the past. I mean,
endure and survive.
Basically that, exactly. This is like a perfect tagline from Last of Us. Yeah, endure and survive. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, some theories I have. I saw some breakdowns on the finale, and now it got me guessing too. So I'm still wondering about the hard drive, like how it ended up there in the first place. And it says 18 on there. I'm thinking maybe that's the silo number.
Mm-hmm.
And also, why is Bernard keeping it, right? If they're so desperate to destroy this, perhaps maybe it's like they still want to retain some history. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, to be honest with you, it could be as simple as just he's just human, and that
curiosity.
Well, it is something that's beautiful. This is out of this world. It's like for them, it's probably looking at dinosaur times. Like if you could see a dinosaur in real life and it was recorded. I mean, the guy earlier in the monitors, he says, "Look away," and everyone looks away, and he's typing stuff. But he has peripheral vision. I'm sure he's seen something there, and he kind of took a liking to it. The same thing with Robert Sims. At first, he seemed like he wanted to look, or he was struggling. Everybody else was just infatuated with that.
It's almost like the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden. It's like that forbidden knowledge. Like you're told not to look at this, but at the same time, your innate desire to know things like takes over.
Yeah, and I think the problem is maybe it's a commentary on the will to live. I mean, if things were like this and now we're here, what's the point if we're just going to be trapped here? But I also think that there's a discovery to be made where it's not the home, it's the person you're with, that's the home, and maybe people will find the will to live through each other and that. But again, maybe we're just digging too deep. Maybe it's something entirely different. I don't know. But as I take it, probably just Bernard is just human, and he has this curiosity, just as everyone else. And I mean, he's the rule maker. He's not breaking his own laws really if he could twist them. So,
yeah. Well, overall, what did you think of this series as a whole, and what do you expect we'll see for next season?
I'm not a fan of drip feeding mystery, but I think that maybe I'm like the exception. Maybe other people, they love it, and that's fine. I think the show is great, to be honest. Sometimes some episodes felt like a chore to like go through, but for them, there were some episodes that were a little weaker than others. That's what you would expect, but for the most part, the majority is pretty positive. I think that, again, a lot of the ideas that they have at play is really compelling. The actors, I think, are really great. The fact that they're killing people off like Game of Thrones or something, I think is confident. It shows that they're really confident. And I think it also shows that they have other actors they have in mind to bring in later on. So for the most part, the lead is a pretty great lead. Honestly, I really dig this show, and it keeps you wanting more. That's the point, right? We want to get down to the bottom of it. And in a way, it puts us in Juliette's shoes. It puts us in Holston's shoes because they want to know the truth. We do too. And if you connect that to also the society themes and whatnot, it's something really meta. It's really interesting. It gets you thinking. And I think that's really important for any TV series. I think that's true art. It keeps you engaged. So yeah, I really enjoyed the show. Did you ask me for my rating?
What were your thoughts for season 2? Well, perhaps we'll see.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting because I really wonder if Juliette's dead. I really wonder. Honestly, it could be the repercussions of what Juliette did inside there, but we have to have a new lead. And my hot take is, what if Robert Sims is the new lead for season 2 and he changes his philosophies? And it's really interesting because he's going against basically, because he's fine. It's not like he's like, maybe some sort of indoctrination, but he had an explanation for it. I think usually when you explain the reasons why you're like this way, I feel like you're not super indoctrinated, because indoctrinated is really like you're kind of like a lamb or something. He seems like he believes in it, fully believes in it, and commits to it, and he wants to make up for the sins of his father. So I think it'll be really compelling to see next season, maybe if he's a turncoat or something, if he slowly realizes things. I don't know, that's too out of character. I'm sure they're gonna need a good pacing for that. If they don't do that, they do a spinoff or whatever. It'll be a pleasure to see Juliette make a return, a surprise return somehow if she is alive, but I don't know. Yeah, what do you think?
I would actually like to see if they do a spinoff. I'd actually like to see what this rebellion is about.
Yeah, me too.
I want to see why, like, who started this, and then it gives me more context. And they don't have to give everything to me right away, but I kind of want to see perhaps like maybe a couple years before this season took place, and like where everybody was, right, and how this pact like came about and how it affected everybody, right. I think that could be really interesting. You give more clues as to what is going on, and then perhaps if they did like a season 3, then we return to these characters that we've seen, like Juliette and Sims and Bernard, and see, like, now that we've got that exposure, maybe perhaps we could understand a little bit more about what's going on right now. Or if they want, like I said, they could maybe perhaps show another silo. All right, maybe there's another community, because apparently there's a bunch of them out there. Maybe we see how another one goes about, right? Maybe it's not just this one particular silo that, you know, there's all these curious people committing these acts of treason, right? Perhaps it's every silo, and perhaps that shared curiosity will end up, you know, revealing this big secret, right? And perhaps they'll figure out a way to free everybody, or at least build a better society than what they've built now, right? Mm-hmm. But overall, yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. You said a lot of great points, you know, and I think it's very immersive. Like you said, it feels like you're part of this world, like you're with Holston or Juliette, right? And I think these little details of the world, and just like even just like down to like their traditions and their culture, you know, makes it feel like, you know, it's a natural way of showing this world, right? And I think all the details were perfect. Even just like the music, even the intro, you know, it was so beautiful. I can't wait to see what next season brings.
Sure, absolutely. What would you rate this whole season?
I'll probably give this a 10 out of 10 for me. How about you?
I think I'll give it like a solid 9 out of 10. Yeah.
All right.
Still a near perfect show. I hope you guys check it out. I think it's worth the watch. Take us away. Well, this is our last time we're going to review Silo Season 1 to some. I'm pretty kind of sad, but yeah.
Yeah. Now we got to go to the mines with Lucas after that.
Yeah. Moria.
Digging for new shows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for sticking around. And I appreciate you guys if you've been, you know, watching our, you know, episode 1 to now for Silo. You know, this was a great show to review. Yeah, check out our other content, our other shows that we've been reviewing. I think we have one more episode left for The Idol, which is out on Max. We do plenty of movies, plenty of shows. We did a few gaming showcases as well. So let us know what you guys want to see. If there's any shows you want us to review, let us know. But guys, until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.